Hi there, guys. So I wanted to discuss narcissism today. So I thought it was interesting. Gigi Young on her channel talked about, from a spiritual standpoint, narcissists are kind of like parasites on the soul level. Like they didn't know how to cultivate their own energy. They tried to use others. I've heard different things for it. In my experience, I've seen. If you saw some of my first videos, I touched on it where from a standpoint of an empath, I've really had enough seeing good people being messed with by narcissists. So narcissists are right up there with a sociopath or a psychopath. They lack empathy. They're really fake. They really pretend. They wear a lot of masks. It's just like they're complete frauds. It's kind of like, who do I have to be to fit in? Who do I have to be? What can I take? What can I get? Compulsive liars. Very manipulative, and there's a big difference. There's narcissistic characteristics, then there's a full-blown narcissist. Full-blown narcissist it's literally like a thing impersonating a person. It's really, yeah. And I mean, what's messed up is sometimes abuse or trauma can create a narcissist. But it's still no excuse for someone to treat people the way a narcissist would. I mean, they will try and take and use people any way they can and then discard them. They will do things like gaslighting, where they try to manipulate a person into second guessing their experiences, who they are as a person, trying to beat up their sense of self, wear down their confidence. They will try to literally like just kind of pummel a person. But before that, there's normally a stage where they try to make them feel really good, like they're chosen, all this sort of stuff. And I've come across people that have described, literally to give you some idea, that they felt like their soul got raped. That's the experiences they had dealing with people like this. And then the best part is they can turn around and pretend to be the victim after. That, in my own experience, like I was saying out here, I talked about that false twin. She was going around torturing her exes with energy, and she tried to pull a whole lot of stuff, and then ran off and tried to play the little victim, without telling people, without telling the people she was trying to get to jump in for energy, the stuff that she had done, and then lied about the circumstances and all this sort of stuff. And there is spiritual narcissists where they are abusive with energy. So, I mean, telepathic abuse. I'm trying to do, like, I don't know, maybe witchcraft or dark magic or things like that and get at a person. Another one is to, a lot of them can use beliefs. So I talked about on the channel, dark tantra, using tantra to try and manipulate sexually, even from a distance, and be abusive with it. Almost like even if they leave, they still have this wanting to be able to get at you. And this is a very common thing if you read up on it with narcissists. What they'll do is they'll go and they'll treat someone like absolute shit. And like the person is like, what just happened? Like, seriously, what did this person just do? And they're and then they can still do one of these and try to get in there. So, some of the biggest lessons a lot of this teaches is, especially for empaths, trust your intuition, know yourself, strong, healthy sense of self, healthy boundaries, do your own healing, and identify if you're dealing with this, because sometimes people get hooked because they'll use sex to rope people in. Sometimes they're over the top with the sex. That seems to be a common thing. Now, there's one thing, you can be a very sexual person, sure, but if you're using it to be abusive and controlling, that is a whole different thing, where it turns toxic. So they can also have, like the one I mentioned there, had like dark, if somebody has really dark sexual fantasies or things like that, incorporating that in there. So do your inner child work, your shadow work, your ego work. Know who you are, strong, healthy sense of self, and boundaries. And if you are in a stage where you're like, oh, well, I know it was toxic, but there's still part of me that maybe misses this person. Identify how they made you feel. And I identify what is the needs they were fulfilling. Did it make you feel chosen? Did it make you feel sexy, attractive? Was the sex incredible? It was insane, like mind blowing. Like I've come across this where people are like, oh my god, but the sex was like this and that, and it's just like that's great. What was happening to your health, your mental health, your like there's literally a book I had read years back because a friend who worked in the mental health field said it feels like you dealt with this. Hands me a book and I read up on it and I went, oh my god, there was people that like the effect it had on them. Seriously, like oh my god, it's like soul sucking vampires. That's the best way to describe it. And when I say that, I'm talking about a real narcissist. Not it's kind of like there's people who can have psychopathic tendencies, but they're not necessarily a psychopath. There's people that can be a little narcissistic. You can look at certain people maybe on Instagram and you're like, okay, they've got certain things going on, but they're not a full-blown narcissist. So a big one too, it's like they have Zippo idea with consequences. So it's like I mentioned the one about in that one video there on that false twin. Within 15 minutes of meeting the person, was laughing, throwing out comments about blowing up her marriage. And I was standing there like do you realize what you're saying? Like, there is nothing there. And then seeing false fronts put on around other people to get things, to try and like weasel way in, to get land and things like that. And then when the mask drops, it's really gross because that's when, like, anyone who's had these experiences, you see it. But like I said, I mean, like there is narcissistic behavior or tendencies, but then there's full blown narcissists where it's like they're literally right up there with a psychopath. So I mean, I saw one start crying in front of me, and I remember not buying into it when I finally saw it, and it was complete crocodile tears. And then when she saw she wasn't getting the energy and the reaction, cut it completely out. Mask dropped. There was this anger and this just behind it, this cruelty, and I just went, okay, there you are. Okay, nice to meet you. Nice to finally meet you. And I feel like that's what kind of happened with that. Sorry, but I feel like I do need to touch on this. That false twin there, that she tried to get back at me, and things were kaput, and it was like, how can I get at this person? How can I get at this person? And a lot of the time they have the wounded inner child, all this sort of stuff, and not respecting boundaries and all this sort of stuff, like you're shoving them away from you. But a lot of the time it kind of goes like super fast, super quick, super intense. You feel like you're up here, certain needs are being fulfilled, and then somebody pulls a carpet, and then it's like you see who the person is, you see the toxicity, they tried to take or get something from you, or use you in some way and discard you, and then might even have to be like, oh, we're okay, right? No, like nothing, like this, a friend of mine recently, we talked about that, like, oh yeah, we're okay, right? It's like, are you kidding me? Do you not realize the way you behaved, how toxic that is, and you treated another person that way? And it's out of fear that they don't want to have to, it's like they don't comprehend it. Like, it's a childlike thing of consequences, of like, you mean I could just treat somebody that way and then they're going to have a reaction after to that? They can't just discard them and like, no, it's okay. Oh no, I put you through all that. Oh, I just don't want to have to even look at that now. And I mean, oh God, compulsive liars. That is a big one. Compulsive liars. Loyalty issues. Maybe they're cheating. Maybe there's some really dark stuff with sex. There's all sorts of stuff. I really encourage you to look it up. But definitely from the standpoint of somebody being an empath, It's teaching you boundaries, self-love, self-respect, that you deserve better, so much better. Don't get roped in with any need they for fulfilling. Maybe that you felt special, you felt like you were enough, that finally maybe you were able to accept yourself because you felt so accepted, whatever it is. Fill those needs on your own, heal that stuff, and then you're going to have the healthy relationship you want. You deserve so much better than some literally soul-sucking parasite. That's literally, I'm not going to mix words, that's literally what they are. And I mean, I've seriously seen some very, very nice, very great people like be really hurt, like empathic people be hurt by narcissists, and it's really disgusting. And I feel like a bunch of us that have had experiences can see it so clear now. You can pick them out. It's like they're hiding in plain sight. That it's like you look and you're like, that person's pretending. That person's pretending. I've seen that before, as clear as day. Somebody's pretending that they say, I don't know. There's a certain reaction they put on full tilt, and it's like they're completely pretending. But yeah, I mean, it's the video I did on dealing with trauma would be very beneficial, but cut ties. Cut any way, shape, or form. Like, I'm going to say one that comes to mind. I break all binds through all time and space to any narcissist, narcissistic, the abusive relationship that I've had, somebody I've dated, maybe somebody I've married to, I was married to, I break those binds. And just announce that, literally, and so it is. Like, it's done. I'm breaking all those binds, all those ties. But yeah, it's literally showing you stuff that has to be patched up. So, I mean, it's unfortunate that anyone would have to have that experience, but really focus on the self-care, focus on you, the self-love, putting your needs first. Because that's another one. Sometimes when the narcissist is around, maybe the person was tending to their needs and they loved it. They loved how much they were being, like, they loved that they were being pampered. And especially if you're an empath, you could be a very kind, loving person, and you're just dumping that on them. And that's something I've noticed. Because the ones I've known, that's what it was. Almost like they loved, of course they loved being around the people who were very kind and loving, and even the families of the people who were, because it was like all the love was being heaped there, but either it wasn't being returned, or there was that cold, contracted emptiness, and they were just parasitic. Cold and cruel was a big one. Almost like the love would be given, but it wouldn't be fully returned, or there would be, yeah, I just... There's so much there. there's so much there. I really encourage you to read up on it. It's just going to be poking all your stuff that needs to be healed. Meditate, have some introspection. What is it trying to teach you? Ask your soul, what is the lesson here? Obviously, you had to learn something. So unfortunately, you had that experience, but I'm sure you will get over it. But absolutely, zero contact. Zero contact. None, even in the non-physical, and that's my stance, 100%. I don't care how much somebody's changed. If you've dated, you've been with something, and also if you've slept with the person, make sure you try and detangle your sexual energy. You can ask help from your guides. You do not want to be enmeshing with these people. Seriously, you don't want, no, you don't want to. You really don't. And it's not worth it. I'm telling you right now, if somebody was like, once again, if they're roped back in because of sex or things like that, what's your health worth to you? Straight up, what's your health worth? It's priceless. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't put up with it. Like if you were in these circumstances where they were doing some really cruel or messed up things, or things that you're like, this is wrong, this feels wrong, and then you end up apologizing at the end of a fight and feeling guilty, and then you're just happy that you were keeping them around, or like they get spinning circles and the person feels confused. You don't have to name it. if it feels messed up and it feels like abuse, it's abuse, okay? And that's the thing. I think that's what it is. Some people try to either figure it out, like, oh, I don't understand, because they never had this, or they feel like they're just hurt from a relationship. It's like, no, like that is abuse. Um, yeah, but it was actually Gigi Young's video that made me kind of draw that connection. I look at the people that I met as narcissists, and let's see, I think at least 2 of them were molested as children by family members, which is kind of rough to say, but I'm serious. But that doesn't. I've known people that had trauma like that. They didn't turn out like that. They didn't turn around and try to go and hurt people. They were very kind people. But that was like initial trauma. There is. It's really disheartening when they pretend to be completely different, and that's normally what makes people draw somebody in. They can be very, you're like, oh man, this person's interesting, or this or that, and then you find out it was like, no, that isn't the person you say fell for, or you enjoyed being around. It's like that person doesn't exist, and that's what happens when the mask drops, and you're like, oh my god. Even if they're seriously, I mean, when it drops, and you're like, the person isn't real. That person that you thought was there. And then you see what was under it, and that's when you just want to head for the hills. So, comments, questions down below. I realize there was some kind of rough stuff in there, but it's one of those topics that kind of has to come up. But specifically, I want to be real about that with empaths. Something to look out for. Something to really look out for. If at any time it does not feel right, if your gut and your body is speaking up and you're like, something feels abusive, even if it's not on the surface, and that's one thing I really want to get across. With energy, energy doesn't lie. If somebody's trying to dominate you energetically, they're pressing their aura. Honestly, I've come across this. Like they try to dominate you, stuff their aura down on you to show some sort of shitty little dominance. I've seen stuff like that. Or it's almost like a smothering feeling, where you're feeling they're trying to like deplete and use you. Like boundaries, 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 and cut cords. If you are literally feeling like, well, I can't stop thinking about this person, and I'm stressed, and I feel this and that, whatever, cut your cords. Divine Archangel Michael, please cut all my cords with narcissists right now. Any cords that no longer serves my grace and highest good, and I ask that I extract the lesson from these so I don't have to deal with that anymore. Thank you. Not simple. Just do that, and you move forward. Don't pay them any mind. Don't give them any attention. They're like, treat them like you would a small kid who's misbehaving. That's my advice, because that's sometimes a hurt little child inside. Don't give them attention. Don't give them attention whatsoever, and watch them disappear from your life. So, comments, questions down below. Let me know what you think. If you want to mention your experiences, it is unfortunate, but I do feel like that had to be discussed. So let me know what you think. Right, take care.